Well, hello everyone. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Um, Thank you for joining me, you creatives, you kind folks, the community out there in the RPG sphere. So today is a little tangle there. Today is Future Friday, and we end our theme this week talking about urban cities, and of course, we have to end it in the future. So, in Future Fridays, we talk all things science fiction, space travel, transhumanist, Star Trek, Star Wars, and all those kind of things. But specifically, we are going to talk. Ooh, my microphone dipped down. Sorry about that. And we're going to talk all things technological and futuristic, and of course, along the lines of urban cities. All right. So you can't get around urban cities in science fiction, as a matter of fact, for the most part, unless the players are on unexplored worlds or uncharted areas, or they're colonists. There's a good chance they're going to be in a very tight urbanized area. And other than, I don't know, maybe spacecraft that's landed, like if you take a look at the movie, Nephrite, what's going on there, man? Good morning. Or morning for me. I'm not sure exactly where you're at. But if you take a look at movies like The Martian or things like that, where you have, or even the show Mars on the History Channel, you do have small enclaves, people settling, but it's pretty much once society has settled in the future, boom, science fiction cities. So, I mean, urban cities in science fiction settings. So, yes, Kitty. Yeah. Hi. Sorry about that. You hear the sounds. I'm giving head scratchies to my cats because, of course, they eat breakfast, and then you got to get the head scratchies. So anyway, science, urban cities in the future. Now, of course, the one thing that we can always go to are, where are these cities located? And the two primary locations we always think of are planetary side, meaning like on a moon or Martian or frozen world, or on the outer skin of an asteroid, or a completely artificially created city, a spinning habitat, a zero-G geodesic, or something of that nature. But the main theme that rides all that together is that there's an outer skin, and anyone or anything that pierces that outer skin, if the environment is quite harsh for whatever the reason may be, any combinations of heat, cold, vacuum, radiation, all those poisonous gases, things like that, everyone has to live in and amongst an area that you really do not want to mess with the outer skin. So that right there always can create a form of tension in your role-playing games that I think is always welcome, GM-wise, to ramp up whatever's going to happen in the game. Now, of course, part of that should be, there's always the threat of someone doing that, right? Someone fires a gun, hole pierces through the wall, and then we have our movie style explosive decompression. The hole makes oxygen escape, and then of course the whole wall explodes out or something. That's a movie trope. You don't necessarily have to go that far with it, but making it that dramatic could be a thing. But we also have to consider the culture that's involved in a city. If people are all living in and amongst themselves, and they know that that's a danger, there might be everyone may realize that firing a gun inside of a starship, or firing a gun when you're close to the translucent membrane of a Martian city, not to do that. Now, of course, we can have futuristic materials like clear aluminum, some kind of very strange, I don't know, crystalline something that's harder than diamond or whatever. And you could absolutely incorporate some kind of new materials. We also assume that once we start getting aerogel. Yes, aerogel. This idea that you have something that allows light to pass through, and that it is very lightweight but extremely durable, and that materials sciences will get ahead. Dead Man, the Storyteller, brings up aerogel, and Isaac Arthur. Isaac Arthur is has, I don't know, 300,000 or 400,000 subscribers on YouTube. Does an excellent series on all things space and science and futuristic. So you should really subscribe to him. Check him out. He does have a very noticeable speech impediment, which he does make mention to quite a bit. But if you can get past that, it's an excellent resource. And he talks about aerogel quite a bit. Neil Fright says, brings up energy repulsive atmospheres. Are you referring to, you could be talking about atmospheres where Isaac Arthur. Yeah, great dude. Actually, we had a little bit of a direct message at one point. It was kind of cool. He checked out my channel for a little bit. I'm sure he's far more busy than I am. But yeah, lives north of me, as a matter of fact, here in Ohio. A bunch of us in Ohio. But anyway, we really do want to get into like the dynamic portions of cities. And if you've ever listened to, I couldn't go over every single city that he brings up, but on Isaac Arthur's channel, he uses science to talk about colonizing worlds. And one series is he talks about colonizing every single interstellar body in our solar system, including the sun, and the various methods and types of habitats that could be created. Yeah. OH, yeah, capital of the nerds. Yeah, you got that, Dante. Yeah, sure is. We're gonna have to have a fight with Rocket City down in Arkansas, I think it is. I don't. Oh, anyway, sorry, divergent. Yeah, the intrastellar. There we go, Dead Man. Yes, yes, it is not interstellar. It is intrastellar. Our own solar system, and inhabiting all of those locations. Because gas planets, we think of aerostats, floating cities. When it comes to asteroids, we could think of spinning an asteroid and encapsulating like crater cities, or hollowing the entire asteroid out and spinning it and living on the inside of it. We know of spindle cities, O'Neill cylinders. I mean, there's geodesics, all those kind of things. So yeah, but once we have our city, we have to think about what's inside of the city, and with a purposeful built. Yeah, Vincent says, yeah, it says cities on spaceships. I want to include this in my spaceship game. Yeah. Having huge populations, because there's also the idea of generation ships, right? A starship that is so large. Dead Man brings up Hamilton cylinders. Yeah, if you just do a little bit of a Google search on types of habitats, whether they're O'Neill cylinders, Hamilton cylinders, it'll show you how they're able to get in, generate gravity, bring in light, and there's quite a few interesting pieces of art where it shows like grass and rivers in some of these locations. Some just have giant buildings on the inside, because when you spin a habitat, the center of it tends to have zero gravity, and then the gravity increases as you go out. So if you build very large structures inside of a habitat that spins, the very taller spires of those structures tend to be lighter weight and stuff. So that's actually pretty good. Vincent says, I actually ask myself how jobs will be distributed on such a habitat. Are there farmers? How many people would be needed to maintain the habitat? And that's where you can really play with the importance of who lives there, because something that's purposefully built wouldn't necessarily have accidental individuals. I'm sure get a large enough population, you'll have homeless people, you have slackers, you always have the people at the bottom, the very top echelons and at the bottom echelons. but for the most part, what jobs would and would not be needed? I can imagine that the job of being a homeostatic individual, meaning the person who maintains the homeostasis of the habitat would be quite important. That means the hot and cold, the air fluctuations, disease, the scrubbing the purity of the system, whether outside debris or viruses or bacteria gets in and out, and maintaining the healthy bacteria versus the unhealthy version of it, and the people that are involved in that. And we always hear about people scrubbing the breathers, right? I guess there would be mold on it or something like that, and that might be like the lowest common denominator. But who knows? That might be in the future for us. That actually might be one of the most important jobs, even if it is just a blue collar job. Deadman says the harvester drones. Yeah, especially if we consider that there might be a reason why that habitat exists. So you would have people piloting drones, maybe harvesting helium-3 out of the moon's surface. They could be harvesting gases out of a gas giant, refueling starships. There might be ramjets that are collecting gases skimming the surface off of gas giants. There may be mining and drones going into the deep oceans of Europa or something like that if you're on a frozen planet, and any number of things. There could be what's the fuel that Star Trek always needs to get for their engines? It's like deuterium or beryllium, something like that. I mean, you can always come up with your pseudoscience, and it needs to be harvested, captured. Black hole harvesting is a thing, depending on what Dilithium crystals, dilithium crystals. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't remember what it is, but whether I'm sure it has a relation to something that is real, but I think it's completely artificial, if I'm not mistaken. Dante brings up Armored Core 4. AC4 Answer had some flying cities over post-apocalyptic Earth, and were stacked enormous wings that were beamed energy from the surface. The lithium, I believe it's the lithium crystals. Yeah, absolutely. And Dead Man brings up harvesting plants on ground-based settings, and that's something that's not very often talked about. Is that the idea that science fiction tends to have a city separate from the environment that it's in. Meaning, like, if you have a moon, they'll have a moon base or a moon city, but not very much connection with the rest of the moon. Or they'll have a floating city and Earth, but very little connection. Whereas in reality, there might be things like there might be floating cities with long, like tens of miles long tubes, drawing in materials from the Earth. There might be space elevators. There might be orbital rings where the idea is you construct a big giant ring around the Earth or any planetary system that has gravity, and you spin the ring, and the ring itself creates gravity, and then you extend tendrils, or basically you extend something from space down to a planetary surface, and then you have materials and other things extracted that go up and down that giant elevator, whether it's drawing gases or liquids or something like that. Dead Man brings up harvesting plants on ground-based settings in the sense of not just like hydroponic farming, but there may be things that are very hard to duplicate or need to be rejuvenated in space. Like, for example, space station may have one breed of corn, and they need 6 other breeds to keep the corn with enough biodiversity. So you have to go out and get those kind of things. Algae farming, Vince Braun, a lot of urban farming, stacked farms, algae farming, and I think you can play with that in a science fiction setting, because as air quote boring as it would be to farm, do hydroponic farming, the cool thing might be, okay, you guys need to go out with your guns and your armor to go find us far more biodiversity for this particular habitat, because it might be extremely valuable, whether it's for your own habitat or other habitats as well, especially if it's extremely hazardous to go outside. Um, Hey, Gianni, hey, what's going on? Nephrite says, in my traveler game to handle psychological difficulties in space, I always include psychotherapists, sociologists. Cabin fever is a real problem if people aren't in stasis. That is an issue um, amongst submarine crews, and they have a limitation on how rotating people in and out from submarine crews and naval crews, as well as the psychological effects of people that are in the ISS space station. And so that absolutely positively is a thing. As a matter of fact, it's even a horror trope where one or more people start to go insane in space, and you always have the one person with the crazy eyes who wants to take their vibro knife and start cutting people's throats in space because they get pissed off that someone won too many times at gin rummy or something. But that is an actual hazard that you can actually include. Although PCs tend to want to be the physically and mentally toughest people, so you would have to have definitely a session zero. Like, listen, we're going to include psychological horror in this game, and that's that. Ooh, why is my light there? We go. Vince says, in a realistic future, wouldn't there be drones everywhere? Why waste resources on a guy who just cleans when you can have drones do much of that work? Thank you, Sophie. Yes, I get it. All right. Sophie, you're gonna have to move over because I can't see the chat. Yeah, thank you, Kitty. Sorry, guys. Okay. Nephrite brings up the fact that, ooh, shoot. All right. Come on, Kitty. Sorry, guys. I know it's distracting, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll say that all the time and people won't be able to hear me. Yeah, you're right. I know. I love you too. Vince says, oh man, just remember the bad joke about submarines. Yeah. Oh, Clem still dim. Sunshine was good. Not sure what that means. Nephrite says, yeah, that's true. But if you look at the far future with a collapsing empire and isolated colonies again, broken starports forgotten in orbit, it returns again. So I'm gathering what you're bringing up is the fact that that you can have lost habitats, and there could be a mission, even with drones and other things, to bring those habitats back into the fold. The players could be exploring someplace. There could have been there could have been an accident. Oh, Sunshine the movie. I didn't see that. The last one I saw was a movie called Moon. I know, Sophie, but I can't play with you right now. Thank you. Moon was a very good movie about isolation and clones and stuff. A low budget, but actually quite good. Pretty good story actually that was told in that. Clem Stoldim, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, butchering it. Clem says it was a movie dealt with the horror trope you were talking about. Really good science fiction one about the sun going out and a mission to restart it. I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Sunshine. Okay. I'll take a look at that. Vince is talking about an argument between Obama and Putin. Talk about our submarines can hold underwater for months, and Obama says we can last for years with our nuclear subs. Yeah, and then it says yeah. Oh no, that's funny. Moon was excellent. Yeah, you know what? I think sometimes, and this depends on the type of science fiction you're thinking of. There's space opera, which is like Star Wars, where the science isn't so much your goal, but the fun of the region, right? It's more the action and the stars in it and the pulp action of it. So we don't really worry about the gravity, and we don't really worry about harsh atmospheres and how to feed everyone in the psychological trauma. It's more pulp action. Whereas you can then go the other direction, like The Expanse. Whereas The Expanse talks about Delta V and gravity and particles punching through your hull and all of those kind of things. At which the Expanse, if you really want to get as close to rendering real life sciences in a science fiction setting, the Expanse has done some of the best. The recently rebooted Battlestar Galactica, not really that recent, but BSG is really good too. Oh, Jenny says reading the fourth book of Expanse, and from what I understand, the books of the Expanse aren't quite the same theme. They're a little more tongue-in-cheek than the television show, but from what I hear, the books in the Expanse are really good too, especially when it comes to like the culture and that kind of thing. And you could really play with what people find important. So, for example, like Vince talks about a lot of drones. The importance of drone operators or even AI operating systems that operate the drones and the humans that monitor the AIs might be extremely important. And when someone throws a monkey wrench into that, that's where the activity starts. Jenny says it's actually a giant detective story. From what I've heard, yes. I haven't read any of the books, and what a great backdrop to have a detective story going from habitat to habitat, planet to planet, and interacting with all the cultures that are involved in it. One culture, different cultures hold things, their importance differently, and morally that might start to diverge, including very harsh things like violence and murder and drug use and things like that might be radically different based on where you're at. For example, depending on the size of a habitat, they may not have the resources to put you in prison and give you a free, 3 meals and a cot when you're taking up space, vital space and resources, right? They might need to put you to work. And so they may come up with other ways to handle criminals and criminality and things like that. Vince says, I think we would have a lot of jobs we can't even think about yet. Some bring up the fact that, especially in those who are very much into transhumanism, that's me with a big finger pointing at my face, feel that jobs like video games might be very big. And of course, they wouldn't necessarily be video or games in the traditional sense, but virtual reality worlds might be very important to cut down on the psychological trauma of being isolated and alone in a small box with a bunch of other people. And so that might become a big thing where once you leave your regular job, you plug yourself into a virtual world, and those virtual worlds might be places for people to exercise their demons, basically, to go skydiving, to camp out, to go swimming, to talk with friends, to practice the piano and all those kind of things, where you couldn't do that if you didn't have the resources to have a real piano or actually go skydiving and stuff. Plus, there might be a lot of fun things to do. Re-entry surfing, like what would that be a thing? Probably. How would you do it? I don't know. But yeah, there might be all kinds of strange, relay races around the whole moon and people running around the moon, on a planetary length run or something, that kind of thing. Vincent says, guys whose only job it is to regulate temperature, light, ambient sound in the habitat. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, have you ever been around people who are very sensitive to sound and or vibration or sense that they can smell, and it could drive people crazy? Like, let's say there's a weird vibration or a high-pitched sound that's just annoying everyone, and it might be your job to go around the habitat to find out that one screw that's vibrating, that's like driving everyone crazy. Hey, that one person looking for that screw might be hellish important if you just hear this like thrumming, this sound in the back of your head that you can't sleep or whatever. That'd be kind of cool. Jenny says, I think VR and AR would play a big role in habitats. Yeah, augmented reality might be a thing. Children could play real cops and robbers using augmented reality goggles, where they can augment the area around them to be like Western or medieval or underwater or something like that, and then they can just point their fingers at each other to go after each other, but the augmented reality gives them power armor suits or flight packs or things like that. I think that would be kind of cool. uh Vince says streamer would be huge, being able to stream all your senses, doing stuff nobody but you can do. Oh, so you're saying like plugging your senses into, like, being able to monitor stellar radiation, be able to monitor neutrinos, excuse me, being able to see gravity fluctuations, things like that. Yeah. Um, yeah, visiting exotic places, going on adventures. Maybe even the PCs could even be drone operators or drone placers to allow other people to beam their senses, consciousness into those drones in those exotic places. Kind of like following alongside the people today that go man versus wild kind of television shows, but you could actually walk side by side with them because you can there could be a radio connection between that person and yourself. Nephrite says, yeah, people jacking into your consciousness, experiencing your sensory data. And I know you guys have already thought about that. Then you can go really dark with that. But yes, record all your senses while doing cool stuff. And then that could be for sale or help people leave their own boredom because they can even go into it. Yeah, hologram idols, being able to watch, being able to do MNG with hundreds of people at once. Are you talking Magic the Gathering? You're talking about something else, and I'm missing it. Whatever that is. Yeah, superstars of the future would actually. I could have met. Oh, meet and greets. Oh, being able to do meet and greets with hundreds of people at once, and each individual would seem like they're sitting in front of you personally. You could shake one. You could reach the idol could reach out and shake your hand, and hundreds of thousands of people could feel their hand being shook at the same time, as if they're just sitting there having dinner with them, or sitting there and talking with them in a comfortable chair. Yeah, that would be a thing. And the pop stars of the future might be the ones whose technology might be able to do it with everyone, but there might be people whose ability to merge all of their sensory input might be just as ephemeral as someone who has great charisma, right? You can't put your finger on it, but someone who has great charisma, like a Gandhi or an Abraham Lincoln or a Ariana Grande or something like that. Like, those certain people just have a way of drawing others to them, and technology might not be able to analyze that, except to say that, oh, this person is better at having other people experience their sensory input than you. And that might be the difference between, Joe Schmo going, well, I'm an asteroid miner, and sure, you can see what I do when I asteroid mine, versus the other person who becomes very popular. And it might just be a matter of like comfort and pleasure and emotional connectiveness. A good actor is able to replicate certain emotions on cue. And so when someone goes skydive or re-entry diving, the exhilarating feel might be something that can't be duplicated very well, except with certain people. Vince says, oh man, this could get even darker. Imagine being a duplicate of a famous idol, the person which enables the idol being everywhere, maybe even sharing memories and genetic material. You could see, we can go even dark with that, with the kidnapping of genetic material from idols, or the zoxing of their personalities, where you have someone who's famous and then someone tries to kidnap them, excuse me, to duplicate their neural patterns and then sell them on the black market. So you could grow your own idol and keep them in your basement. And the idol may not even know that's happening to their duplicates. So the PCs might have to go around the solar system going after the copies of this important person. Yeah, dark rabbit hole. But Deadman brings up Intrastellar, And again, I like to bring up the fact that sometimes we over like the expanse. We tend to overlook our own solar system when we talk about science fiction. We love to go from Earth directly to other places outside of our solar system. Alien races and things. But we can have a lot of fun with various types of habitats and the dangers that are involved in it, and ramp that up. For example, you could have a conflict on the moon with two individuals in spacesuits isn't necessarily being shot, but having your spacesuit punctured, and then dealing with the fact that you're shooting at someone, your spacesuits gets punctured, and you have to worry about maybe being injured as well. So it's not just the injury to your thigh with a laser blast or bullet, but it might also be the loss of oxygen, the frigid cold, snatching the slat patch out of your pocket and trying to find cover to get the time to throw the slat patch on your suit if it doesn't automatically seal, getting your wound healed if it does automatically seal, getting back into a habitat with breathable air to get out of your suit so you can look at your wound, and those kind of things, and those complications thereof. Vince brings up, someone who has very high sensory responses. There are already persons who have higher than max eyesight or absolute hearing. I even learned about superstars recently. Imagine being paid to eat expensive food and share that memory. And there are people who are hired simply for their senses. People who work in the perfume industry, in the wine industry, in the visual effects industry, who are very hypersensitive to color variations, to sense variations. Super tasters, not superstars. Those people might be very valuable in the future. A new habitat or an abandoned habitat might be explored by a super taster to sense for of very minute versions of things in the atmosphere in a habitat to detect whether something's wrong, and etc. Oh, how are those guys called who have linked senses? Synesthesia. Isn't that a condition? Synesthesia. I'm butchering the language. Oh man. Imagine being able to experience how this feels. I believe the actual definition is your senses are replaced with another sense. So you see things as a scent, or you smell things as colors, or whatever. Like you hear things as colors. Yeah. It's like a flipping of one sense into another. Nephrite says synesthesia. I hope I butchered the English language. Wow. Synesthesia. It's in real life, there is a condition at that. Where you taste colors and stuff. You can see sounds or hear colors. And that might be a thing where our definition of I'm going to be brutal here. Our definition of mental problems, right? Our definition today of what we consider people to have mental difficulties, whether it's Asperger's, whether it's I don't want to use that word. There's a word in my head and I don't want to use it. But you guys know where I'm going, where you have people who experience manic depression, or psychological horrors, PTSD, psychopathy. There's a ton of words flowing through my head, but you know where I'm going with this. Today, we might think of those things as being problems. OCD, neuroatypical, right. So today, all kinds of neuroses. So today, we might think of them as counter to being in a social environment, right? But in the future, we may find out that those individuals, while being hyper focused on one thing, might actually expand our awareness of what the world looks like and how we experience it in small amounts. So, for example, someone who has a fear of heights or snakes or flying or some kind of psychological trauma, those of us who don't know it might be able to, for example, a doctor might be able to feel exactly what that person is feeling, and then fear of habitats. Yeah. Well, hell, fear of enclosed spaces, claustrophobia is going to be a big thing, right? So a doctor or their friends could say, "Hey, man, I really don't understand what you're feeling." In technology, could actually literally have us feel exactly what you're feeling. When someone's, a movie trope, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know how I feel. Well, put this on. Let me know. And it could be horrible for me. Like, whoa, now I know what you mean. Like, wow, I get it. I really get what you're talking about. Then there might be more empathy. And then even professional doctors might go, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to help our patient. We're going to feel what they're feeling. And because we don't suffer from it, but we're feeling it, we could decipher it, right? We can break it down more intricately. When someone's like, oh, I woke up and had a nightmare. What was the nightmare? I don't know. Well, here, put this headset on so we can actually all see it on a screen and record it and see what that nightmare really is. You know what I mean? Yeah, claustrophobia. I'm sure claustrophobia, xenomorphobia. Yeah, yeah. Fear of every other living thing that's not us, which might be a fear of everything living thing that is us. Hey, we start changing our own biology, all that stuff might change, right? Clem says, I think there was a Black Mirror episode about that. Doctor was a masochist and got addicted to it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can go down some dark paths with technology, right? Like, oh, you're feeling pain. I want to feel what that pain feels like. And it's like, now I'm going to put this device on you so I can make you feel pain so that I can feel the pain because I'm addicted to it, right? It's the movie Stranger Days was about that. The criminal that was going around sexually and physically assaulting people, enjoying it, putting the devices on their heads so that they feel their experiences through the guys that's killing them. So while they were getting killed, they felt his joy from being killed, which is pretty nasty. Yeah, kind of a silly show, but some cool ideas sometimes. Black Mirror was hit or miss, but that's because they were different creators. But I still love Black Mirror. Strange Days, not Stranger Days. Oh. Yes, Strange Days. Not I'm mixing it with Stranger Things. It's Strange Days, not Stranger Days. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Vince says maybe you could force a patient to confront their own fears in VR or through manipulated memories. There could be psychological therapies for psychological problems. Yeah. There. I mean, absolutely. I think virtual reality will probably explode once the porn industry like really perfects it, and then it could go for like medical problems and things. I mean, the cool part would be solving people's medical problems, but we all know that the world revolves around the porn industry, and once they get a hand of it and really manipulate it, I think then it'll just be in every corner of the world. Yeah. Therefore, it's false memory syndrome, corrupted cerebral cortex. Oh, yeah, it's endless. The dark. Yeah, yeah. The PCs could be bounty hunters looking for lost people's memories to get them back if they were stolen or somehow lost in transition or something. Yeah, Vince is Vince is being nice to me because of what I brought up. But me bringing that up, that's actually a very true thing. That's how DVDs and Blu-ray and VHS and that kind of thing expanded. Honestly, that's how cable television expanded through, and it was through the porn industry. But that spreading that out into what we're talking about is the idea of entertainment might be a thing that expands our use of technology in all ways. So for example, the exploration of new and different environments and planets, the science of it is hideously important, but the joy, the fun of exploring, a 5-mile deep crevice might be more of the entertainment value of people scaling up and down 5 mile crevices versus the science of it, and that might be the, oh yeah. Vince says in Adam Ruins Everything podcast, they talked about the placebo effect of how important it is. This could be a thing in the future. Someone who just pretends to help people for cheap, who only abuses a more powerful version of the placebo effect and the self-healing powers of the human body. That might be something that's harnessed. Like, I agree that it might be that doctors and AI harness the placebo effect to help us out in traumatic situations and create that. For example, if we have in our heads an implant that is a in eclipse phase, they call it a muse, but essentially you could have like a Google Assistant in your head, and that Google Assistant could take on the audio or visual appearance of a person most able to help you out in the situation you're in, right? So it might be a combination of all of your best friends and family members that have really helped you out, and your favorite pop stars all converged into one person. Like in the Discord, there's the link to this person. Oh, the website is like, this person does not exist, or this individual does not exist, whatever. Anyway, it's an AI program that artificially creates a photograph of an individual's face of a person that doesn't exist in real life. And so you could have a program that creates someone that does not exist, but is pleasing to you to help you out through difficult times. Yeah, Deadman says Alexa or Cortana. Yeah, up in your head, like Alexa, could you really? Oops, my Alexa turned on.
Find any enabled video skills that can find that. Go to the Alexa app to manage your video skills and devices.
I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, guys. JD says those things are creepy. Yeah, it's sitting there listening to me right now. I shouldn't have called its name. Her name? Don't tell me to do that. Alexa, what's your favorite rap song? Yeah, she didn't answer.
My favorite would be The Message by Grandmaster Flash.
Wow, she loves Grandmaster Flash. Okay, well, that's a you were able to put, wow, how did you do that? Deadman the Storyteller says this person does not exist.com, and each time you click, there's a tab at the bottom, and if you click it, it'll create yet another individual that does not exist. No, I'm not going to tell her to rap. She's going to go on for hours with that, because you can never tell her to stop. She just sits there listening to me. Yeah, she who would not be named. Exactly. But that might be a thing in that might be a thing in real life, where each person and I went to that's where I found it in the Discord. The link to this person does not exist.com, where an AI program is designed, I guess you call it AI, is designed to pick up and merge the physical facial attributes to create a photograph of an individual that does not exist today, which might be kind of wrong, because that person might actually exist. We just haven't seen that person yet, and the computer hasn't seen that person. But you might be able to hold that picture up and go, oh, there is someone that looks just like that somewhere in reality. Nephrite says, I just checked it. That is scary. Yes, it's scary because Vince says there are sometimes super creepy persons on this website. Yeah, and the scary thing is, it is very good and could actually when you get to the point where it can duplicate real people doing things that person normally would not do, and not being able to tell the difference. That's where you're going to be like, whoa. I can imagine using that to manipulate political figures into saying and doing things that they wouldn't normally say or do, and being very difficult to prove that they didn't say or do those things. I'm talking about us and our political hyper triggered political ramifications in the United States, right? Where someone could make a website, make something clickbaitable, put a photograph of a political person saying or doing something they didn't do, and then everyone just assumes that it's real because it's hyper real. Vince says, "Does anyone know why oftentimes there's circles near the ears of the persons?" I think that's the background is the AI deciphering what an average background would look like behind a person that looks like that. So I think it's drawing on photographs that people have taken, and the AI is merging images of the things in the background, not knowing what those things are in the background. It's just using data, as opposed to this person's in a cafe, this person's in a store, this person's in a in a auditorium or something like that. Vince says deep fake. Oof, you can reverse smile them in many photo apps. Ugh, nasty. you automatically assume this person is nice, which you don't always want. Dante says you could the website generate a city worth of faces, fake an entire city? Good DMing aid. If you want to be kind of sick about it, yes. But honestly, as a DM's aid, like if you were running a photo realistic type of setting, like you want something gritty but more realistic, you don't want it extremely sci-fi, that program could give you a bunch of faces and you can make them NPCs in your world and just use them because those are not faces of real people. Yeah, Janie says any one of us could be an AI. Some people would say that we already are. Many have an inverse function. That's true. So that's such a creepy thing, which could be a real thing as well. Yeah, Vincent, that is not what I'm doing. Yeah, oh man, you could create. Yeah, Dante bringing up the fact that you could create a whole city. I mean, just on the fly, you could just take them and start printing out those pictures and like, oh no, that's your best friend, and that's the person that's the mayor, and that's the person that's the cook, and that's the, I mean, it's crazy, but it's actually pretty good though. Vince says, sadly, they almost always smile, which I don't always want. Got to check those reverse smile apps. I think they're smiling because it's an aggregate of people who've taken photos and people smile in photographs. So assuming the AI created 7 billion smiling faces to duplicate the people on Earth, they would all be smiling because in this AI world, they would all be happy because they're all in situations where they're all happy. Yeah, a study showed that about 1/2 of Facebook's accounts are fake. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and there's also Photoshop too. You could go in and manipulate them or turn the faces down, or I don't know, maybe Stepford Wives. Yeah, exactly. Vincent says that is how you create flawed AIs. Everybody's happy, nobody's real. Give them biased databases. That's a fear. I know we're diverging off of urban cities, but that is a fear of AI. That the fear of today having AI become awakened is that the data that they're using is not real data. It is biased data based on what we've input into it, including unconsciously adding into it. So if an AI takes a look at recorded history and the things that we've recorded on social media, that's not a true reflection of us. I know Elon Musk says that awakened AI would actually be better if they could use the data that's recorded from us real time. So it's not the post that you react to on Facebook, but what you're actually thinking about when you see a post before you post on Facebook. It would be the real data. Are you really happy eating that ice cream, or are you just posting a picture of yourself being happy eating the ice cream to get likes or thumbs up or bumps on Instagram, right? There are people who are Instagram posters who have followers because they're just happy on Instagram, even though in real life they have like 15 people behind the scenes to make sure their Instagram posts look perfect, right, while they're on vacations and all that kind of stuff. We talked about that in terms of social media influencers. So an AI might take biased databases, and for example, today, if AI use social media, an AI would be a horrible murderer because of all the people who spew hate and destruction online, but would never say that to your face, right? And they probably don't even mean it, you know. Yeah, Vince says, "Wow, those apps are scary." Yeah, once they awaken, they'll be really scary because it'll be our fault. I mean, it'll be our biases all wrapped up into one big machine, right? Okay, so we got a little bit of time left on it, and let's go back to our cities. There could be, let's merge that with cities that are operated by or manipulated by AIs. Um, there's an argument that those sites are like cities, and that could be a real thing in the future. I believe that you could not convince me that if it was cheap enough and available, that people would live in habitats like they would live in social media, right? Nephrite brings up, they have social rules, expectations, walls, laws. So I, it would be kind of sick, but imagine a habitat of like 50,000 people that are all living in real life how they would live in those places that we have online, right? And those people would move there, and yes, I'm going to get a little sick here. You could have a habitat full of pedophiles, and they move there because in this habitat, being a pedophile is it's legal. All you have to do is move here, and of course show your pedophilia credentials. And once you do that, you move on in, and it's a thing. It's man boy love the whole time. You know what I mean? That could be a thing. And oh, by the way, we clone our own children to abuse them. I mean, it's sick and probably deserves of a couple of antimatter missiles just launched at them and just get rid of them. But what if you don't know they exist till you get there, right? Or you send your consciousness across the cosmos to be downloaded somewhere, and it gets hijacked, and your body is there, and then you're in this place, or you're in this VR world, or someone makes you feel the joy of what they're feeling, while at the same time it's disgusting you. Nephrite says it's like an old Over the Edge module. Oh, Over the Edge. I don't remember that. Nephrite says, plug in the old Matrix bed and live out life in a more completely fleshed out Instagram. I think that would be real. I think we could get to that point as well. Vince says nudist habitats, artist habitats, soldier habitats, maybe even try to breed the perfect version of the archetype. I absolutely agree with that. There might even be, you could even those habitats might even have subdivisions. So, for example, an artist habitat might be like, there might be sculptors and actors and singers and dancers and spray paint artists and body dysmorphification artists or something. That kind of thing. Nephrite says first edition has some pretty edgelord gratuitous stuff. Talking about Over the Edge. Wasn't Over the Edge the role-playing game that all conspiracies were real? I don't have the game, and I'm really reaching back in like the mid 80s, I think. Nephrite says, yeah, breeding the perfect graph writer. Yeah. Jonathan Tweet. Yep. In a city, Almiraja. I'm not getting that reference for some. My brain's not getting there. But yes, you could have. Yes, outside of international law. Yes, if it becomes cheap enough and viable enough, people could create habitats that exist well outside of international law, or it might be too problematic to incorporate them in civilized law, or it might be too problematic to force them to do it. or it might not even bother you. Like if this habitat of 50,000 pedophiles exists near Neptune, everyone might be just like, nah, it's out of sight, out of mind, whatever. Right. And that some people might go, the fact that they exist, they need to be eradicated. And others might go, nah, they're not hurting anybody. And your definition of them not hurting anyone might fluctuate, right? Like some might say their existence hurts you. Others might say the fact that they exist and we're doing nothing about it constitutes our agreement that they should exist. You know what I mean? Oh, Deathright says that's where it was set. I didn't realize that. Yeah, but you know, having these really dark and bizarre, we can go really dark with technology in terms of people abusing it. But of course, the PCs may come from places where it's actualized. So, for example, like Vince brings up the breeding the perfect version of an archetype. Let's say you're a soldier. You could make copies of yourself, and then little by little eliminate each copy of yourself in a brutalistic death, like a gladiatorial arena, so that you keep getting better at fighting yourself until your skills at fighting get better. So you could be yourself fighting yourself over and over again, killing yourself over and over, getting yourself better at ignoring pain, fighting off multiple attackers, et cetera, and then learning from it, reconstituting everything you've learned from all your failures, all your successes, and doing it over and over again. That would be kind of nasty. Vince says, well, if you always take the extreme, it always sounds horrible, but imagine a habitat full of RPG nerds. Yeah, I don't know how fun that would be. A habitat full of RPG nerds would be quite dark. I would absolutely take some hand sanitizer into some of these VR realms, right? Or the equivalent, the virtual reality equivalent thereof, because you could get pretty dark. We tend towards dark imaginations, not necessarily performing those dark acts. But if you could create that in a virtual world, I think it would absolutely exist. Yeah, no RPG virtual reality fatal for me. Dead Man the Storyteller says Eclipse Phase says it's an issue, but the fact that people use it, such as a neotenic prostitutes, makes it much less of an issue. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's it's not deciding whether it's right or wrong. It is exploring an RPG setting where we ourselves as player characters explore whether it's right or wrong. It's not us. I mean, yes, today we can say something is right or wrong, but 150 years from now, our moral compass might change based on it, and you could always dial the horribleness up and down based on the setting and all the things like that. Yeah, and Vince says you have a weird imagine of yourself. Most of us do. Our idealized self might be kind of strange. Yeah, and everybody says people arguing about the rules constantly. The rules lawyer enclave, and that one, you got that one person in the background after all the rules lawyers are arguing, pointing at the book like, hey guys, on page 3 it says you can change the rules the way you want, and everyone's like, shut up! The rule says it's like this. Yeah, right. Man, the Power Gamer Enclave, the Spotlight Hog Enclave, yeah, the Dice Punisher Enclave as well. They'll have their own thing. Like I only roll one die once, and then I kill it. I destroy it. I flush it out the airlock. Right? You know, I just 3D print dice and roll them once. Yeah, it's there's so many things. So we diverge because science, it's so cool that science today allows us to imagine. Transhumanism allows us to imagine science allowing us to create what we imagine at a reasonable time frame and cheap enough. And I think that's what scares people. And also I think that's what excites people as well. And when you can make manifest your hopes and dreams, and also your fears and your darker urges, it's a pretty scary thing. Yeah, we are the OSU district. Get out of here. We are the story gamist. Exactly. I mean, absolutely. You could even have VR worlds that are like um that operate by the rule of cool versus the by the book rules. Like you could just modulate them up and down, and everyone's like, I'm not playing in here. That this VR world uses the OSR rules, and I don't like that. I'm going to my GURPS VR world. F you guys, right? But that's the thing. So anyway, having some fun here, and ending this on urban cities. We did a whole theme all week on urban cities. Next week we will probably, I don't know. I was thinking about going backwards and maybe going to like Fae creatures and Fae worlds, something a little more fantastical or something like that. But who knows? But I'll let you guys know when that happens. Vince says, I did recently read a book where a city existed which only focused on books. All persons were either authors, bookbinders, booksellers. They had catacombs that looked like ancient libraries. And that would be kind of cool. I mean, some people are avid book readers, and why wouldn't they want to live in a city designed like a library, right? There's places to sleep. When you get up, you just walk outside and you're in the library. There are like coffee shops and places to eat, but everyone's just like, shh, I just want to sit and smoke a pipe and read a book. I want to curl up, I want to lay on a nice soft carpet and read a book or something. I want to sit by a window with the soft sunshine and just read a book. That would be kind of cool. But anyway, guys, by the way, thank you very much. I'm probably going to do some videos of some new releases we've done. Holding this up next to my face, it's hard to see. We've a new release, The Pipeline for Call of Cthulhu. This is a new module. Adventure takes place in the 1980s. We've got some. We even have Abominations. That's a new release from us, and then and of course all the crap that I've been putting out with the Cinematic Environs and stuff. We're not going to do any live streams with these probably, but I'll probably do some verbal component videos, a little shorter, just to give you guys do some page throughs. I've done those before to show what we've been releasing and things like that. So yeah, Cities of the Dreaming books by Walter Moers or Mowers. Not sure it exists in English. I did read it in German. It's a trilogy. And I'm okay with your German-ish. Yeah. Cities of the Dreaming books. Okay. And I like that idea, right? That's not a dark thing to have a city built around about a library, right? I'm glad I am internationally friendly. As a matter of fact, the fact that I get up at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time makes me far more friendly overseas. Like Janny was in the chat, and I think Janny is in Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's 11, maybe midnight, something there. I'm not certain. But anyway, guys, everybody have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All that kind of stuff. Great. No, oh no, Janny laughs. No, it's 2 p.m. here. Oh, okay. It's 2 p.m. I'm absolutely positively I've misspoken then as to your location. So sorry about that. I mean, I think it's awesome, but I also think it's so yeah. They even had a race of booklings. That's kind of cool. Oh, you're in North Europe. Sorry. There was someone in Hawaii, and I thought I misremembered. I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. No, yeah, Vince says it's 1 p.m. here. Wow. I thought it was sooner than, well, okay. I'm glad I could help. Anyway, everyone have a great one. I'm always squirreling myself away, getting distracted. Guys, everyone have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday. Have a good one. See ya. Bye.